Welcome to another episode of Just One More Fix. This is James. With me in this episode is Lacey.
Hey.
You can find us online at justonemorefix.com or on Twitter at justonemorefix. If you like us, head over to iTunes or to Google Play and give us a rating and a comment. In this episode, we're going to talk about looking forward towards 2018. And now, it's time to get our gaming fix. I'm Kier.
And I'm Alyssa from In Defense Of, a proud member of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the one you're listening to now.
The opinions expressed are those of the individual hosts and guests.
Be sure to check out all the other podcasts available at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
And get ready, because geekiness begins in 3,
2,
1.
Welcome to another episode of Just One More Fix. You may have noticed that we missed a week for the first time in about a year and a half. So I guess
it's all downhill now.
We suck for that, and we're sorry we missed a regular episode, but we had a lot of things that happened, just being busy.
We have an entire list of excuses.
Yeah, like 24-hour shifts, being busy, Lacey's work and school, a road trip, sickness, holidays, the family, car repair, and then a rescue mission that happened for that car repair. So all those things combine into one giant amalgamation of disaster, and we missed an episode. So I think that's pretty good for the first year and a half of us doing this, that we've only missed one. We don't keep a lot of episodes pre-recorded in the bag because we like to be able to do them more organically, I guess. So
I hate it when people say that. We like to come up with stuff on the fly.
There you go.
Organically. Like it's a tomato. It's carbon-based, our thought process.
We're just going to hop right into this one here. I think this time last year, we did a similar episode that was looking forward towards 2017, where we talked about some things that we were hoping to do and games we wanted to run and whatnot. And I am proud to say that as far as those goals, we actually accomplished several of them. One was to run and play, I think, 80% of the games that we had on the shelf. And while I didn't count them up and do the math, I know we are very close to it. Now, this is excluding the games that we bought this year at Gen Con, because those weren't there for the entire year. So from what we had when we set that goal, we have met that, which I'm super happy about, because it was actually a pretty big feat, really. There were a lot of games up there. Yeah, no, just...
Was I supposed to say something?
Well, I don't know. You didn't react at all. You're just like, yeah, we did. I guess we played a lot of them.
Yeah, we played the games. We did the stuff.
That was pretty lame. Yeah.
We rescued the people, killed the other people.
He just reacted like, yeah, we played a lot of those games. And they bore no excitement or reaction.
No, I liked them. They were fun. I don't know, most of them.
Uh-huh.
We reviewed a large portion of them. Why are you going to call me out like that?
Right on. And I feel like one of the other goals, which is one that we're going to set again this year, is that we gained more last year, I feel like, again. It seems like we were able to get more games put together, and we had a pretty consistent gaming group for quite a while. That seems to have trailed away now, but that always happens at the end of the year and holidays and stuff anyway. But I know we tried to be more consistent in our gaming, and I feel like we did do that at least.
I would agree with that.
So I think that's a goal that everybody should set, but right on.
Find a gaming group, hold them hostage.
Play games.
Play games.
All right, right on. So I think we're just going to talk about some things we want to do for 2018. I think the first one I mentioned is we want to game more. If I could just find a way to win the lottery, that $380 gazillion, and then just pay people to hang out and game with us, that would be awesome.
You pay people to run games for us.
But as I don't buy lottery tickets because I'm good at math.
I'm like, I don't want to read this book, but I want to play this game.
So I think we're just going to go back and forth here with some games and things that we want to do for gaming.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
The first
door number one.
On my list, actually, and these are kind of in order of what we want to do, although I guess it's the bad way to start this off. But these ones I have at the beginning is because I'm already doing them, kind of. So I really want to finish a couple games. So we have a 7th Sea game that is going that kind of ended.
I was hoping 7th Sea was going to be on this podcast somewhere. It's just so good.
Mid-chapter, and I want to finish that game and draw it to a better close.
But we were talking about things that were coming out too, right?
Yeah.
There's another 7th Sea samurai sort of thing?
Yes, it's the kind of, well, John Wick is the guy who designed 7th Sea, and he also used to do L5R, Legend of the Five Rings, and it's kind of his way to bring that back in, and it's going to be cross compatible with 7th second edition. So it looks pretty cool. I didn't back the Kickstarter, but I think I'm going to wait for it to come out and get a better look at it and decide. Because
I picture it being kind of like that Pirates of the Caribbean movie where they go to the Asia and there's all that except better, because that kind of sucked. But
yeah, well, that's a little more kiddie or whatever. But yeah, no, it looks cool. And there's a lot of pirates in the South China Sea and all that kind of stuff. So
they have the coolest looking pirate ships.
It's true. The junk ones, they call it. They actually call the junk
with the interesting sails that are all jaggedy. It's like a dragon wing.
In addition to 7th Sea, I've got a Blades in the Dark game going that I would like to keep going. We've played, I think, 1 or 2 sessions, and I'm envision that one going like between 6 and 10 sessions, depending on how things progress. So I want to finish that one.
I find the world very interesting with the ghosts and the inky sea and the
it's
darkness.
Very cool and different. And I thought
I like how the territory thing is set up too.
There's a lot of cool. It's got kind of a cool setting with it that has enough detail there to where you can be interested in it, but it's not so much that you're bogged down in details that no one's going to remember, so that you can add things to it as the game goes along. I also thought it was weird with that one that it's not as, I'm not sure what the word is. Like in Apocalypse World, when you play and you roll dice, most of the time you succeed at a cost. And I feel like it's easier in Blades in the Dark to get things done. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I think there's some more things that give you bonuses. There's more ways to get bonuses in that system.
I don't know that I dislike it or anything like, you know what I mean? I'm not saying that. It's just different. And I expected it to be more like Apocalypse World. So that was a surprise to me. But so there'll be a review of that one coming pretty soon, I imagine. And all the games we're going to talk about, there should be reviews coming for.
If we haven't reviewed them already.
Yeah, pretty soon. So. And then the other one that I have running that was the Genesis. I think that we were in that for like 2 sessions and then kind of we got away from it because
I forgot about that.
The people that were playing in that game would kind of
such a cool
stop
setting.
being able to get together. So that one is actually, of all of them, that one is my favorite one to get up and going again. But I think when the Blades in the Dark ends,
the spore fields, and we walked in there and I was like, oh my God.
So good, so good.
We've had such a terrible error in judgment. Why stop now?
So that is my first goal, is to close off some of the games that I have running so that I can start this new stack of games that are next to me, basically. Is there anything that you're running that you want to close off?
Is there anything that I'm running right now?
Yeah, that we've kind of gotten away from or anything? I can't remember. Most of the games that you've ran
I've run a lot of one-shots recently because I don't have the time to expand on things. There is Infestation that we have going with the kids. I wouldn't mind doing another session of that. But
okay, very cool. Right
I think pretty much everything, because we kind of closed Tales from the Loop. I could definitely pick that back up and run another chapter of it, but we closed at a good stopping point. We finished that scenario.
Right.
So.
Which, if you're going to go to a different game, that's the best way to do it, just to, throw that in there. Which, if you don't know that, stop gaming and go flog yourself and then start gaming again. But, okay, I think I have more books in my stack than you do, I think. I'm guessing.
Probably.
Maybe.
It looked heavier than my stack.
Well, some of my books are thicker.
Some of them are not.
Right on. Okay, so the first one on my list is Night Witches.
How very dramatic.
Yeah, I know. So it's an Apocalypse World game about flying these group of female fighter pilots that were part of the Russian army that were not funded very well at all, and they weren't even really in fighter planes at the time. They're more like in crop dusters running around and doing things. So it's like a day cycle and a night cycle side of the game. And if it's your first time listening to us, we're big Apocalypse World fans for a lot of different reasons, and this one is just another version of Apocalypse World, and I think it looks really cool and fun to do. So I'm excited to do it.
I'm totally listening. I was trying to sound out the Russian words on the front that I'm assuming means night witches.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure Nochny is night, so Vedmuy, maybe? Sorry if I'm butchering that, but I think it's Vedmuy. Anywho.
Right. I don't know. I saw this around the time that I saw MASH and stuff. And while they're two very far apart games, I think it could be very cool because it's got a mechanic in there that involves stress and exhaustion for being able to fly missions at night and be awake, and then during the day being able to get your planes repaired and back up in the air. And there's a kind of a cool interaction between or I guess lack of interaction that's allowed between the female soldiers and the male soldiers in the Russian army and whatnot. So I'm excited for it. There's a short
story in that first volume of Dangerous Women that is about a Russian fighter pilot.
Which one's that? Are those a series of short stories?
Yes.
I'll have to read it then.
All about women. There's actually one in here that's kind of like a piratey thing too. So trying to find the title of this story is the title is Reza Stepnova, and it's by Carrie Vaughn, and it is about a female fighter pilot for Russia in World War II.
What book is that in? That's Dangerous Women edited by George Martin and Gardner Dozois. Sure. I'm guessing Dozoois. I'm not sure.
Seems reasonable.
Right on.
There's a lot of really good short stories in there, actually.
Well, very cool. So maybe I'll find some inspiration and I'll actually read a short story. I have a hard time doing that anymore.
They're short.
True. Hence the name, short story. All right, Reynolds, what's your first one?
So I feel like I had to mention it. It's probably still not going to happen until next year because I'm still in school for the whole year. But Shadows of Estern. My very beautiful set of books, so full of rich world and history and text that it's going to take me a very dedicated amount of time to get through. Actually,
your very own Mount Everest.
Yes. So I don't know that it will happen at all, but I thought it bared mentioning. Shadows of Estern.
Very cool. My next one is The Warren, which we played. It's another Apocalypse World game. I have all of my Apocalypse World stacked up together because they kind of fit into one thing.
So different in flavor.
It's a game where you play rabbits, like Watership Down style, and not like rabbits like you're anthropomorphized. You're actually rabbits, and things will kill you, and you really can't fight stuff because you're a rabbit. And we played this, and I can't remember who it was that ran it for us. It was somebody from Bully Pulpit. I can't remember who it was. We had such a great time. It was very different. Yeah, I just love to have that at the table again, have that experience again. And we have some players now that we are some old friends of ours that we've just started to happen to have our schedules be able to line up again to game with them. And I think it would be really cool to sit down with that with JD and Holly and see how that game goes because they're good role players and they're into games that are story based as opposed to beating the experience out of the bags of treasure, games. And they enjoy those just as much as any other person, but they're down for some different story games and taking chances and stuff. So The Warren is my next one.
All right. So from the collection of Ben Robbins books, the creator of Microscope, for those of you that aren't familiar, is a game called Follow. So in this game, you create a quest as a group and then just sort of tell the story of how your group approaches this quest. So it's kind of like role-playing the classic quest, but without all of the dice rolling, because Microscope is much more storytelling and much less mechanical in nature. So I'm just kind of excited to see what that might bring.
So it works like Microscope does with the index cards and everything, or have you even looked at it?
I haven't looked at it a lot. It is very similar. I know that much. But I think it is a standalone game as opposed to using the Microscope system specifically.
Right.
But it does still use like the index card tile placement sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Actually, here's a picture of, that's for a 4-player game, but you see the table layout. And so there's a couple of placards made out of index cards and then a couple of group ones.
Very cool.
So you create a quest, you create some challenges that act as obstacles to succeeding at your quest, and then everybody kind of role plays out what happens.
Interesting. Very cool. I had a lot of fun with the Microscope, so I think that could be a cool one too to try. My next one in the Apocalypse World still is Tremulous. You might notice a theme with Apocalypse World here. Tremulous is a Cthulhu-ish horror kind of a game, and we've played lots of Cthulhu horror style games with lots of different systems, but we haven't really played anything that was straightforward like Cthulhu Mythos horror in an Apocalypse World game. Mm-hmm. And I thought it might just be fun to try out. And the way it's got some things put together are kind of interesting, kind of like in the way Dread does. Dread has a lot of interesting ways to look at things, mm-hmm. And this does the same thing. There's a lot of ways that it puts things together and choices you make to make things more interesting. And I don't know if you remember when we did it, but I had everybody, there's like 6 different categories of choices to make. And then everyone votes, like they're all different types of horror or whatever, or different themes. And you have everyone vote on what they would like to see from rating them 1, 2, 3, their top 3, and then you put those together, and that's what the one you're going to tell is because all the stories that are in there are these 3 groupings of 3 things. So you take the 3 highest, and that's what your story is. So it's kind of interesting. I've already done that.
Yeah, I seem to remember doing that.
Yeah. We just haven't had a chance to get to run it. So it's kind of cool. I think it's going to be fun. And even if we only do it one time, which I think Apocalypse World is well suited for one-shots and for Cthulhu-style one-shots. So I think it should be a good time.
Character creation is nice and concise.
Yep.
Nobody wants to spend a lot of time making a character to only play it for one session.
Right.
Except, well, I shouldn't say nobody.
Right.
But.
Yeah, there's a few people. But like it's fun that also that if you already have all the playbooks made out, and you go in there and your character, goes crazy right out the gate, it doesn't take much but a few more choices to make a whole new character that is entirely unique from that one. And I think that's kind of cool because you can be up and running. Whereas like in a Call of Cthulhu or even in Trail of Cthulhu, it can take a while to get another character made. So like it's no holds barred. I can just, chop off your head and you go crazy. And then we've got another character made in another, 5 or 10 minutes. So I think it should be cool.
Okay. So my next one, since we're staying in the same vein of things, is the Microscope Explorer. So there are some added rules for Microscope in here, but there's also 3 games that specifically use the Microscope system. And
3 individual games?
Yes. And actually, at least one of them, he is taking and making a standalone game book as well. I don't recall which one, but there is Union, which is using the Microscope system to explore one family tree.
Oh, cool.
So like an ancestry line. And then Chronicle explores the story of an object or a place. So it could be like Excalibur, or it could be the town of Roanoke through the centuries, or a farmhouse that turns into some kind of spooky, it could be the Amityville Horror House, anything like that.
It's like an interesting way because like the regular Microscope is a cool way to enter into do world creation, to have characters go in there where they know a back history. But this is a really kind of a cool way to do it, to where you could do that house one and then take that into a Dread game. And it's entrances into a lot of different kind of games.
Yeah, for horror stories it's great. Or for fantasy stories too, if you want to establish the backstory of that relic.
A relic or something.
That they're looking for. So I think it has a lot of cool crossover potential.
Very cool.
And then the last one that's in there is called Echo. And so in that you have your Microscope history set up. And in this one you are basically going back as a time traveler through that history, trying to change key events within it.
Oh, cool. That's interesting. Time traveling stuff is really cool, but very hard to do well.
Yeah.
So that's very cool. I'm always interested to see, which I can't believe we still haven't picked up Time Watch because of that. But it's so interesting to see and try and figure out how to make that work, which ties into something that I'm going to talk about later. But it's very cool. So my next one is probably my favorite book that I've gotten in a long time, and it is the thickest tome of ever is Veins of the Earth. And I know probably everyone is out there like, oh God, James is going to rave about Veins of the Earth and Lamentations of the Flame Princess again. Oh, he's going to get all fanboy. But I love this book so much. And then we did our first playtest of the Worms module or adventure that I'm working on, and I used a little bit of the Veins book to do that. And
it was awesome. Like it enhanced the underground gaming portion of that significantly.
And it also inspired me because like the bad guys, the little creatures that you guys encountered aren't they're not from the Veins book, but it made me think about things differently. And I was like, okay, I'm going to,
Yeah. I noticed like with the descriptors of them and everything.
Yeah.
Was different as well.
I made a very conscious effort to break old habits because I don't know if you noticed or not, but when you guys first went in there, in the mine part, I didn't do it much. I wanted it to be like when you go from the mine and then you went into like the cavern part, the new section, that I wanted to make a distinction. Like this is man-made and normal, and this is the Veins of the Earth.
We talked about that too when we talked about setting up that creature feature and the change from setting A to setting B.
Right. But then when you first went in there, I described the first chamber as you walked in, and I was like, oh, old habit. And I started to do it the exact same way that I always have done in the past. I was like, nope, stop right now. And I described how the light of the lantern only went so far, and then that's all you could see. And then I noticed immediately that they were like, we're going to walk the perimeter of this room to map out how, which was a very interesting choice of things to do. And then there's another point where I described how the light only went up so far, and then you couldn't see a ceiling. And I kind of thought that people might try to go up higher, but no one tried it. They're just like, all right, well, we're not going to go up there because we don't want to go any higher, but it was very cool. And I had a great time with it, and it included with the Lamentations thing. I just want to bring it into the game, bring it into my gaming more, and run a 100% underground Veins of the Earth game. I think it could be really cool because it talks about some additional things that we didn't even touch on barely in that game that are very cool for Veins of the Earth. So super excited to do it. And I'm just going to toss it in there too because I didn't bring it up here, but Vornheim is kind of included in that. Vornheim, Lacey just got me for St. Nick's Day. And it talks about creating cities in the way that dungeons are created, how everything's kind of stacked up on top of each other and everything. And it's kind of really got some cool concepts in there. So I'm going to use that as how to put cities together for my Lamentations games and that kind of stuff and see how that changes things.
I would love that book if for no other reason than the random monster generator on the cover that you talked about.
Oh, yeah. Where it like
what a brilliant time-saving
so
idea.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
So the only thing I didn't
Mind
like about it, when I used it in our Worms game, I was kind of aiming. I was like, come on, get up higher. I need to be higher. You're wanting to roll high or low or get the target number. So I guess you're like, it's kind of fun because you're actually throwing D4s at it and aiming for something. So it was fun, like in a different tactile kind of a way, So yeah, Veins of the Earth, Vornheim, and Lamentations without me raving too much more. So.
All right. My next one is probably my favorite RPG of all time, if I'm being very honest. Dread.
Really?
I love this game.
I know you do, but you would pick that as your favorite if you had to pick one?
I think so.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool. Fair enough.
Some of the other ones I really enjoy don't have the same replayability to me because you can make this so much very different each time that it is a little bit more versatile, but still horror gaming, and it's very system light, so it's nice and easy. It's just basically purely cooperative storytelling with Jenga involved.
So what kind of game do you want to? Are you thinking you want to do?
Actually, I don't know if it will happen this year, but I've been working on typing up that Dread scenario, and I would kind of like to run it at a con.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've already put it together.
Right.
And that's so way outside my comfort zone. But I think maybe I could do it. Other than that, I also thought it would be really neat to, again, step a little outside my comfort zone, but at least with people I know, to do a sci-fi horror game with it.
Right on.
So like sort of alien-esque setting.
Right. I got to say, like, I know when everybody sees or hears Dread, they immediately think of horror gaming, but I ran a Doctor Who game with...
That was wicked fun.
All three of our children who are 6, 7, and 11, and then you were in it as well. And it was a suspense game. No one was actually playing the Doctor. They were all different people from history who had had encounters with the Doctor and were trying to rescue him from the chosen bad guy that they selected, which happened to be, I believe, Cybermen and Weeping Angels, which I think is a terrible combination of things to put together. Was it both or no? Or was it just Weeping Angels?
I think we ended up settling with just the Weeping Angels.
Yeah. So it was good. It was a lot of fun. And the Weeping Angels are easy in terms of building suspense. Yeah. So...
Well, and a lot of Doctor Who episodes really border on the horror thing anyway. Yeah. The Empty Child is probably solidly the scariest TV show I think I've ever seen.
Right. But I guess my point is, though, is that you can use Dread to do any kind of suspense game in any setting or scenario, because while the tower works really well for horror, it also works really good for suspense.
Well, and investigation is easy too, because then that's a way to kind of force your players to take polls. Right. So if you're talking about some kind of suspenseful investigation, it would work very nicely for an X-Files style game or something of that nature.
In our scenario, we have a TARDIS Jenga tower, and every time the tower fell, when we put it back up, things would get worse, and they were trying to save the Doctor, and I believe I had a shot clock like from Apocalypse World, and when it filled up, then they would have drained the Doctor and fully killed him, and that was what they were racing against, is to rescue the Doctor before.
Yeah, and really the reason for that was because we were playing with a 6 and 7 and 11-year-old. So
yeah, but also to be fair, that tower was, I'm a wicked good Jenga player, and it was not easy.
It's
I was
smaller,
like, wow,
and
the blocks were square. It was bad. So right on. So I guess we'll move on to my next one after we've done raving about Dread there. And this is an old game of mine that I have been wanting to break back out, but it is Dragonlance 5th Age using the Saga system.
Old for sure.
And let me see how old this thing is. It is 1996. So I've had my struggles with fantasy gaming here recently. And by recently, I mean the last 2 or 3 years probably. But I really still love Dragonlance because it's a different style of fantasy. You know, it's not so high powered like Forgotten Realm style, you know, big spells and all this kind of stuff. It's a little more individual stories, and there's also different themes that are in it. Like they talk about actually in this book, in the saga system, that if it doesn't include heroism, romance, and sacrifice, it's not a Dragonlance game, which I think is a cool thing to incorporate into classic fantasy gaming, you know. But the thing that's interesting about it is it uses
Also dragons.
Yeah, true. Dragons, Dragonlance, Dungeons and Dragons. You know,
There's a lot of dragon in the book that I read.
True. But it uses cards instead of dice, and I think it's very cool to be able to make conscious choices about what you're going to play for whether you succeed or fail, or how good you're going to succeed in that kind of a.
Mm-hmm.
It presents different choices because we all talk about liking story gaming and making conscious choices that affect the story, but being able to choose when you fail and being like, this would be really cool in terms of story if I failed here. Like it builds tension if I fail here, you know, and being able to consciously make those choices is kind of cool. The other thing that's kind of fun is I've played it before, but it's been a long time ago, but I remember you have 8 cards in your hand, and I remember looking at them and thinking, none of these cards are any good. Not one of them, right? And I was like, man, okay. So also from a mechanical standpoint, I'm like, I have to figure a way to get these cards out of my hand so that if something bad does happen and I need to succeed at something, at least I have a card that is good, you know.
Yeah, it reminds me of like Malifaux or Game of Thrones. They have that same, here's a deck of cards, decide which battle matters the most to you.
And I think it's a really cool way to change how you interact with the game, and looking at your cards and being like, oh, I've got this 10 of swords and I'm going to lay an ass whooping down on somebody, you know? And I think that's kind of cool to be able to anticipate those moments, because it builds anticipation in you to see the cards, but it also kind of builds anxiety if you've got bad ones and how that's all going to work. And as the story progresses and you know the cards you have, I just think it creates kind of a different play experience and dynamic. And I think the game was like way ahead of other game designs at the time, like in 96. That's still second edition, basically, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm super excited to try it, or not try it, but to try it again. And because we played it a little bit way back in the day, but I don't think that as a gamer, I was ready for this style of game yet. And I definitely am now. And I think it'll be fun to do. And I think it'll be fun to introduce you guys to it, being that you're used to more story style games, and see how you guys react to it as well. So,
okay. This is my favorite new release of this year.
I know what it is.
Bluebeard's Bride.
Right.
I have ran one game with this and played in another game with this.
Mm-hmm.
And I am stoked to try it again with a slightly different set of people. So it won't be the exact same folks again. And
well, I don't even think, I think we could still do it with the same exact people and change the roles, because I think that the game would be drastically different.
I agree. But I do want to play it with some different folks too, just to see how the dynamic changes with that as well.
I think Holly would have a lot of fun with that game too.
Yeah.
I just like that game so much. I can't say enough good things about it.
It's so intensely dark, like in a different way, and it's beautiful. It's like, you know, the
As
cover
an
and
artifact,
the art
it's very
and
cool.
everything about it is just gorgeous.
Right on.
So very almost like gothic horror.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, me and Lee were talking about that game a little bit on the drive back from Tennessee, and about horror, and how when I ran that Worms game, I tried to incorporate some of those things, the style of horror it talks about in there. I don't know if you picked up on that or not, but
it's that. Well, like I said, it's that gothic horror.
Yeah.
So it is horrific and terrible what's happening to you, but everything that's presented to you is presented as a result of your own choices during character creation and setting up the persona that you're playing, and just the state that you've found yourself in, and you volunteered for it and you put yourself there. And all of this is happening to you as a result of those choices.
Right on. All right, so this is my last actual gaming book to set up here, but this has become my Everest, I think, and I love it so much. It's terrible. It is Itris B. And there's not a lot there to read. It's actually pretty small. There's only 2 books. There's the core book, and then I just got the Menagerie book.
Well, that's your last one?
Yeah, I've got some other things to add, though.
Oh, okay.
So, but
I thought you had more than that. I guess Dragonlance 5th Age is just really fat.
Yeah, it's a fat
3
box.
books.
But Itris B we had such like I would put that side by side with the Bluebeard's Bride experience that we had. Both great, but in different ways.
It's very uniquely its own thing.
Yeah. Oh, I think that might be why I like them so much, is because one, the person who ran it for us did an amazing job. Two, it's something like I've never experienced before. And three, it is very much its own thing, and there's nothing else like it. So Interest Bee is surreal noir, and it uses cards to make decisions about things, but you draw them randomly. And then there's also a stack of cards that you can draw from, and to add the surrealism to another level of surrealism to the game, where whatever it says on the card just happens, and everyone accepts that as true because that's just what it is. But it's just so very different, and I really want to run it, and I really want to do a good job, but it is so very different. And I have this hang up where I don't want to introduce a game to people and do a crappy job for something that I liked so much, because then I'm like, I don't really want to play that game again. It was okay, but I want to do a good job, so I'm very reluctant to bring it out, So I don't know. We'll see. It'll happen this year. I think this is one of my my goals, is to get at least a one shot of Interest Bee ran at least one time this year.
Be good. I think I'd have to go back and watch a lot of aside from just noir, like the Dark City thing does surrealism noir very well. Yeah. Coraline is not noir, but surrealist for sure. Yeah. In that fairy realm, the way the movie is shot anyway.
Right.
And plus there's a giant spider, which I think is involved in Interest Bee as well, if I'm thinking correctly.
Yep. So very cool.
I still have this whole stack. Okay.
No, I've got others still, so I just didn't bring them up.
This is the Infestation RPG book. I just brought it up as a placeholder so I wouldn't forget. I have yet to actually run a game with the Pip System core book. So I would like to do that, but I kind of mentioned the other thing that I'm excited about this year is the Monster Hunters Pip System Kids Adventure that is supposed to be coming out.
We also have the Mermaid Adventures one.
We do.
Which should be cool and fun to run.
I don't know.
Yeah?
Maybe. I'm sure that our boys would like it if I presented it correctly.
Well, I think that you just have to present it as like a King Triton style thing too as well. And if you incorporate that side of it as well, I think it could be fun in terms of, just imagine like if you have Ariel and Flounder and Sebastian, right? But instead of having a fish and a crab and a mermaid, if you have two mermen or whatever and Ariel, that's still the same exact adventure and storyline, just slightly changed. Like I would say, can't all go on land now, but the things that like with the shark.
I think I can get Zeke to do it. I just think that Isaiah will be resistant.
I think as long as it's fun, though, he'll be pulled right into it.
So yeah, we've got that. But I'm more excited about the Monster Hunters one because I think it sounds awesome, like Monster Squad.
Right on.
It'd be so cool.
So after Interest Bee, my other white whale, I suppose you might say, is Dogs in the Vineyard, which is a stylized Old West Mormon game. You play dogs that are the hounds of these faithful, but it's based very closely off of the Mormon Church in Utah during like the Brigham Young times and all the unrest of the Wild West. And I just finished watching the Hell on Wheels series, and I think seasons 3 and 4 have a lot of Mormon pieces to it, and 5 have a lot of Mormon pieces that go to it, and Brigham Young appears in it and stuff. And it helped me envision the game a little better because it's just not something you see in TV or movies very often.
Right.
And I think it could be fun, and it's inspired me in a different way to try and actually pull it off. So we'll see. And the mechanic part of it is very cool. I like the idea of
mechanic is interesting.
Rolling dice. Like in every other RPG you do, I'm going to do this, and then I roll the dice. Whereas in Dogs in the Vineyard, you set up the conflict and then you roll the dice first to see how it goes. So it's kind of done backwards, which is kind of an interesting way to do things, I guess. So
it's again kind of like that bidding thing. It gives you a little bit more agency in what happens as opposed to just the random roll.
Yeah, and then you can back out at any time. So if you're like, I am way over my head, because I can see your dice on the table. It's almost like a version of poker in a way. And you're totally gonna destroy me if I keep going. So I'll back out now and take my minor consequences instead of seeing it all the way through.
Okay. Lamentations of the Flame Princess. This is just the core book. So I had mentioned it in one of the Google Plus forums, and I haven't really readdressed it. But I had discussed co-GMing a game with my 6-year-old. And Lamentations of the Flame Princess might not be the first thing you would instantly jump to when you're thinking about gaming with a 6-year-old. But stick with me here. So it's just the core rule book. And so, it's using that set. And he wanted to run a Terraria game. So for those who aren't familiar, Terraria is a console gaming. We have it on the Xbox. I'm sure it probably exists in other formats as well. Yeah. But it is a pixelated dungeon crawl game with things like slime balls and giant demon eyes. And to me, that screams Lamentations of the Flame Princess. So we're using that base system, and I'm helping him with the rules as we go along. So we've run one game, and we've gotten through character creation and running the first intro session. And so I'm looking forward to doing that with him again. He's asked me about it basically every day that I've been home since that first session. So he's very excited about it.
It is kind of interesting to see him be more inspired to run an imagination game, as he calls it, as opposed to Isaiah, who is 11, and he's more at the age that you would think he would be wanting to take off and do that. And they've all been exposed to Think You Evil, and Isaiah has played loads of different regular conventional RPGs.
Yeah, and he even ran the 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons box set for us.
Yeah, the starter box. Yep, very cool. So my next one is, I didn't bring it up, is the White Box. So Lacey kickstarted the White Box board game, and it's got some cool essays in there, and it comes with a whole bunch of stuff to kind of create your own board game. And I thought, while I've spent a ton of time playing board games and loads of time creating stories, it might be fun to dabble with trying to create a board game and see what we could come up with, building it all together and seeing how it goes and how bad of a game we can make.
Yeah, I thought it would be a lot of fun. I really didn't get it for any other reason than I thought it would be neat.
Right. No, yeah, I think it's really cool. It's also got some good essays inside it, and there's a book that came with it that's got essays about game design that apply to tabletop RPGs and to board games as well. So it's worth checking it out even if you're not a board game person. It's got some cool stuff in there.
All right. My last one is Bedlam Hall. So it's a Powered by the Apocalypse game, and it's from Monkey Fun Studios. To me, that would be reason enough to want to play this game because Spirit of 77 is so much fun. But this one, you play the servants and staff of a household that is just consisting of horrible people. So, whether that's quirky and horrible like the Addams Family, or really truly terrible and murderous like House of a Thousand Corpses style, is completely up to the game master. But I'm really, really excited to give this a try. I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun.
Very cool. Another Apocalypse World game. So if you haven't noticed the theme, there is a little bit of one. But I think it's neat because Apocalypse World does genre so very well.
Yeah.
And I think when they run out of genres, perhaps we will run out of Apocalypse World games. But until then... Right on. Let me see. That's your last one?
That is my last one.
My last thing, I think I mentioned it during the Lamentations thing, but the biggest project that I have that I am super excited to finish is the Worms Adventure thing that I'm working on. So I've got probably 2 or 3 more play tests, I think, to see it go through, and then I'll have it mostly flushed out, and it'll be time to kind of put the finishing polish on it, and we'll be releasing that. I think I'm going to release it in increments on our Patreon. So once I have finished putting my notes together from this last time I ran it, I'm going to publish that on the Patreon. It won't be quite finished, and it won't be as polished as I want it to be, but you'll be able to see it. And I think it'll be fun for people to be able to see it through the iterations that it goes through. But that's my number one thing that I want to have done this year.
You should do a piece of cover art for it.
And I would love to.
With a worm coming out of his eyeball.
But I thought about doing something where we would bust out some of the haunted house makeup again and do that and take an actual picture of it and then put it through some filters and kind of rotoscope it and have some fun that way.
That could be fun.
Oh, that would be a good time.
With an actual worm. No, I'm just kidding.
We've got the tools to do it.
Wait,
so I thought,
as long as I'm not the model. Go right ahead.
Well, I mean, we've still got all the makeup and stuff from the haunted house. And I thought it would be fun to bust it out and use it. So, because some of it is getting dried out and a little hard. So it's just going to go bad. May as well use it up on something, So it could be a fun time. All right. So I thought might mention some games and things that we're looking forward to coming out in 2018. And I know you already mentioned 2 of them. One was the Pip System.
The core book is already out, but the kids Monster Hunter adventure.
Right. Which looks a lot of fun. Another one you talked about but didn't mention the extras is the Bluebeard's Bride extra book should be coming out in
I didn't
2018.
know there was an extra book.
Yes, there are 3
I
extra
told you I'm
books
not in the know this
that-
year.
well, I backed them all to get everything like the full. I went full crazy on that Kickstarter because I was so excited by it.
Nice.
I got, I think it's the Book of Mirrors. There's like 3 different books that come out with it, and they're all like different settings or different takes on things, different specific rooms for inspiration for Bluebeard's Bride to use. There's a deck of servants that I got that has if you need a servant, you just pick one of these cards, and there's a series of servants for you to use. All kinds of stuff. So all the extras that are coming out for Bluebeard's Bride, I'm super excited to get because I think that can add a whole nother level to that of awesome to that game. Plus, I believe there's another book that comes with it that adds some different, I don't know,
different settings.
setting
kind
is
of,
the right word. Yeah, where it's like you're in an asylum and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I think that could be a lot of fun to try out. So I'm looking forward to that. Do you have any other ones that you're looking forward to? I've got 2 other ones, but actually 3.
I don't want to take yours. I'm pretty sure one of them is one of yours.
What?
The Cursed Sigil. Is that what it's called?
No, what's that?
No, did I say it wrong?
Oh, Signs and Sigils.
Yes. Okay,
Yes.
that's what it is.
Go ahead. I forgot
Something
entirely
with a
about that
sigil.
one. We
Uh,
backed that one too.
Where you play different cultist families, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is this the story? And you're kind of like vying to get your elder god raised before the other one? Is
Yeah,
essentially
basically,
the-
instead of playing
idea.
Call of Cthulhu, where you play the good guys trying to stop the end of the world, you play the bad guys. They're trying to bring about the end of the world, which I think could be fun. I don't know if it's done well. I think it will be awesome to play. But it's one of those games that I wonder about how much replayability it has because you're playing the bad guys
Right.
in a more realistic world. So I think it could be cool. Then again, it could be terrible, like most things. So, but I'm optimistic. From what I've seen of it, it looks cool, and it's a different system. It's the Axiom system, which uses cards and some other things, which looks to be a lot of fun. So I forgot entirely about that one.
I'm glad I mentioned it then.
Well, the one that I am super looking forward to, but the lowest on my list of awesome, which, I mean, if it's an awesome list, it's still the lowest on the list is still awesome, is Eldritch Cock by Lamentations of the Flame Princess. So they made Vaginas Are Magic, which was a free RPG Day product. And if you haven't listened to our interview with James Radji and a couple of the LOTFP designers, go back and listen to that one because we actually asked him about it. And he is going to do it as a free RPG Day product. Even though he said he might not, it would be worth doing as a regular buy it, style supplement, which would be, would be great. I would still buy it no matter what because I think it's really cool. But I'm super happy to say that it looks to be that they're going to do it as a free RPG Day supplement. So I'm looking forward to that. Should be a lot of fun. There's a lot of sarcasm and devil may care kind of attitude that they have that I appreciate. So looking forward to that.
Excellent. I am not going to be running this, nor do I have a copy of it, but my brother recently received the Numenera Numenara RPG, and I believe they just kickstarted the 2nd edition,
Cool.
or a supplement to go with it. There was definitely a Numenara themed Kickstarter that
Okay.
was happening that I was kind of following on Twitter.
Fair enough.
But he has a copy of that book now, and he guided me through character creation as we were driving back from Tennessee before the car broke down.
Yeah.
So, as far as I know, Carrie and I both have characters for this game already. I don't know if he
Right
has
on.
given the game any thought or just the character creation, but I know he's working on reading through it, and it has a very beautiful artwork
Right.
and setting to it. And
I think it's made by Monty Cook, which is a good sign.
It's Monty Cook Games.
He busted it out and was talking to me about it a little bit, and we were talking about it. It didn't make a character or anything, but it looked cool. We talked
Yeah.
about it. It seemed kind of like a
Having,
very Dune kind of feel to it.
I could see that. Yeah, it's sort of like futuristic sci-fi, but in a world that's pretty.
Right.
Instead of less
Not all
gritty.
sterilized and yeah.
Right. And when we were going through the character creation thing, I had never played another Monty Cook RPG game. I don't know if there's a lot of them.
There are,
I'm
but
very uninformed. I sort of thought that there was because it's a massive company. But
Right.
the character creation is very similar to that of No Thank You Evil.
Cool.
In that you're, picking what kind of character you are and adding a descriptor
Right.
in that style. So I don't know if all of their RPGs are that way, but this one was like that as well.
No, the first one I encountered his is Arcana Unearthed, which is 3rd edition 3.5 with different classes and stuff, like a different version of that. And then they kind of, that's what the first one that I encountered. Now, he's one of the original way back D&D designers, but they expand.
He's a big name. He has lots of street cred.
A little bit. But I never played The Stranger. He's got lots of games that are out. It just hadn't be that they fit the groove that I was in at the moment to get. So, but they've got lots of great games. So that'd be cool to check out. I've got a couple of these. I'm not sure which to do first, but I'm just going to jump in and do V5. V5 Vampire the 5th Edition Masquerade is supposed to come out at the end of 2018, in the winter, 2018, I think. And I'm super excited for it. We play tested V5 at Gen Con, and if you're an old fan of Vampire, you'll still love it, and the hunger mechanic is the coolest thing in the world. And if you're new to Vampire, it's not... I never thought that the mechanics of Vampire the Masquerade were that hard to grasp, but it's even streamlined and cleaner, like a more modern game design. And it's so very cool. And I still say that Vampire the Masquerade then and now have the best writers in gaming, and their ideas for story and the way they put things together are the best that I've seen for any RPG. And I'm super excited for it. That's, almost my number one by just a little bit, but it's not my number one by just a little bit. So I'm super excited for it.
All right. Well, if it's not your number one, I'm going to be very sad because it should be Wraith.
Oh, Wraith. Oh, I forgot. Well,
so since we're talking about things we're looking forward to, the new edition of Wraith should be coming out.
Yeah, Wraith 20. Yeah.
And yeah.
It was postponed from them releasing the PDF because they had to send the it was the holidays, according to the email, and I'll cut them some slack. But
we did miss an episode. So.
They had this. They had to review the Orpheus section more, and so I'm okay with that because a better Orpheus is all I'm really looking for. That's okay with me. So
I think we probably have several episodes where you hear us rave about how much we enjoy Orpheus and how cool Wraith is. It's like World of Darkness, but with the darkness turned up. I mean, when your spending point mechanic is referred to as angst.
No, it's spite.
Oh, okay.
Angst is in Wraith, but yeah.
Yeah,
so.
I said Wraith.
Oh, I thought you said in Orpheus. Because the bad juju in...
well, both games are awesome.
Yeah, true. Very true.
Either way, angst and spite. So, yeah, you've got that.
Yeah. For a game that came out in the 90s, right? Angst. Go figure. Right on. My one that I'm looking forward to the most is the Yellow King RPG. That should be, I believe, coming out in 2018. It's going to be it's from Robin Laws and from Pelgrane Press. And Hastur is my favorite Elder God Cthulhu Mythos thing, and I think a game that doesn't have Cthulhu in it, but where Hastur is the powerful entity that everyone knows about or exists in the world in a game sense, I think is very cool. I think the concept of I suppressed a cough there. I think the idea of ideas as a virus is very cool and interesting in like real life as well as in a game world. I think it's just a very cool idea. It's like the perfect time for that kind of a game to come out. Mm-hmm. And the other thing I think is cool about it is it takes place in 3 different time periods from what I understand. And decisions you make in the earliest time period affect things in the latest time period. So I think it's cool to have a game like we mentioned earlier that crosses times and decisions go back and forth. So I'm super excited for that. And I have good high hopes and I'm looking forward to that because I kickstarted that one as well because I have a problem. So
that game is supposed to have a different sort of mechanic as well, right?
It's
with the
Gumshoe.
cards.
It's Gumshoe.
But there's like trauma cards or something.
Yes. So that is something that came about from Cthulhu Confidential in Gumshoe 1-to-1, where as opposed to just taking damage, you get trauma cards. And those can be mental or physical, and they just have game effects on them. So it's a way to get through combat faster because in an investigation game...
Sort of taking a page from the Mansions of Madness board game. Where you get, you get so much damage, but here's a broken leg.
Right. But the idea
makes it easier to sort of role play that loss too.
Right. And then it goes along with the idea that in an investigation movie, you're not concerned about what happens during the fight. You're concerned about how the effects of the fight affect the rest of the investigation and how it affects the character afterwards. So it puts the focus in the right place, I guess you might say. So I'm looking forward to that one. Should be really good. So. Right on. Do you have anything else or honorable mentions to mention for this coming year, games that we want us to check out or anything?
I'm not going to say that's an all-inclusive list because I haven't done enough research, like I said. Yeah. But, I mean, those are definitely the highlights for me. I'm sure
we'll be at Gen Con again in 2018 and be like, oh, look at this game. I can't believe I didn't know this came out.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah. It's the best part about Gen Con is finding things you had no idea even existed. So
other general geekery I'm looking forward to, but other than that...
I've got one honorable mention that I'm looking forward to. I don't know if it'll get done, but it's called Aquilara, Aquuelarre, and it's Spanish.
Okay.
And it's an RPG from Spain, and it's written to take place during the time when...
I think you have to roll your R's.
Yeah.
In Spanish.
Arra.
I can't do that.
Yeah. But Aquilara.
I'm not allowed to run this game.
But it takes place. It's interesting because most of the RPGs that we see today are kind of from the Anglo-Saxon UK vision of things, or Germany, that Central Europe kind of part. And it's a game that takes place. It's very
where everything is bright and shiny and hopeful.
No, but like with the Inquisition and like demons are real and that kind of thing during the Inquisition times, and when there's this kind of interesting.
So the Spanish are like, sit down and shut up. We're going to show you how the Inquisition really does things.
But like, there's this interesting cultural thing that happens in Spain because the Muslims conquer a large portion of Spain for a long time, and then when the Reconquista happens and they push them out, there's still this interesting cultural aspect that's left behind. So it's a game that takes a very good look at that, and it's got very distinct differences that you don't see in other RPGs because of that. Those kind of influences. And it looks really cool, and the artwork is amazing. And if you want to talk about some evil, wicked badness that's in there, like there are demons, there are terrible creatures in that game that look really cool, but it's not translated from Spanish yet. So I'm kind of bummed because it looks really cool. And I saw it on Kickstarter and I was like, that looks wicked cool. And then I lost it and couldn't find it. But that was like 2 years ago and it still isn't translated yet because translation is a giant amount of work,
Right.
Especially in terms of trying to make sure that when you translate rules, that they're translated exactly to where it's effective, to where...
Just translate it word for word.
Yeah, that'll totally work. Yeah. So that's why stereos don't get put together easier. Why IKEA went to pictures for how to put your stuff together as opposed to actual words. But I'm super excited for it, and it looks really cool, and I hope to get a copy of it if and when it's done. And I was almost like, man, maybe I should just learn Spanish and get the game. But that would probably be a lot of work. So I'll just be lazy.
Just a tad.
Yeah. Right on.
You would be better for it, though.
This is true. And Duolingo says I'm 23% fluent in Spanish. So maybe
I feel like it overestimates my fluency.
It says that, and I was like, what? All right. So I guess to finish this off, I think we'll just talk about some goals for us and the podcast for the next year.
Yay.
Does that work?
Hashtag squad goals.
Oh, we're not talking about this now.
Yeah.
No. So the first one is cons.
When I retweet this, I'm putting that on there.
Oh, please don't. Please don't. Please don't. Anyway, first on the list is conventions, I think. We have already made the commitment to make it to Gen Con like we do every year. So super excited for Gen Con 2018. But also Hoosier Con in March, at the end of March and the beginning of April. So if you're in the Indianapolis area or have the potential to be there, we plan on being at Hoosier Con this year, pending some huge change in plans. And I plan on running at least one game there, maybe two, depending on how time and inspiration and all that kind of stuff hits me. But that's first on the list, I think, to do. I think that'll be a lot of fun and to challenge ourselves, because that's one of my other goals, is to make sure to try and challenge myself in my gaming. That's been a consistent thing for like the last 2 or 3 years, to try and spread my wings a little bit more and do a little more and try a little more.
Running con games is almost a separate goal for the podcast.
Yeah.
And its co-hosts.
Right.
Because several of us have toyed around with the idea, and this might be the year we finally take the plunge.
I don't know why it's taken so long for us to do it. I think we just got caught up in everything else that goes on to just go and have fun. As opposed.
No, I haven't done it because I find it terrifying.
I don't know. I do, but I don't.
Abject terror.
So.
I mean, you gamers, you seem friendly, but then you sit down at the table with them like a vicious animal.
Another big one I think that I want to make an effort to really try and get done this year is to try, and the last probably 2 or 3 months, I think, of this has just been pretty much me and you. And I would really like to try and make an effort to get Kurt and Lee and Carrie and anybody else that we decide to put together to get back on the mics and get back to the way we were doing things before, because we've just been busy and schedules and blah blah blah, whatever. No one really cares, wants to hear our sad stories, but
life has happened, as it frequently does.
True story. So to get back to that, because I like to argue with Kurt.
True story.
I do. Like it's usually the first half of first hour of our gaming is like, hey, I heard this, let's argue about it. And I mean, in a friendly way. You know what I mean? Like, we just like to debate and have discussions about stuff. So Right on.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I would like to do a crosscast or two with other strangers. I know. It's weird that that's an idea coming from me, but I don't know, there's a lot of great RPG podcasts out there. And even, if it was like an actual play or something, I know there's a couple of all female ones. Mm-hmm. And I think that would be just like so cool. I'm all about like the women in gaming thing. I think it's so awesome.
I think it's very cool. And it's weird to me because our table has been nearly 50-50 for so long that it's like, not that it was an issue before, but it's just like, that's just what,
But even in the short time we've been going to Gen Con, like I've seen the difference in the number of women that you see that are there to game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to make games and to play in games and to run games. Holy crap.
Right. Well, I just think it's cool because I enjoy hearing, in the same way that I enjoy reading different stories and different authors.
Right.
When you're sitting down to game, it's all about the game master and everyone around the tables, their storytelling voice. And I think more voices and more inspiration is better gaming,
right,
and I think it's cool.
More diversity equals good.
Well, yeah, it's just, and without being all cheesy about it, but I like the idea of different stories coming together because that's how I think you get the best stories is when you have diversity of ideas kind of all pouring together into one giant thing. You get, so long as everybody's being cool and, having a good time, that you get the best stories come out of that, So
right.
Very cool. So I guess if you listen to us and you have a podcast and you're interested in podcasting, or obviously interested in podcasting, but if you're interested in doing a crosscast, or if you have an actual play podcast and you're interested in having one of us on, just drop me a line and I can put you in touch with the correct people that you're interested in. So you just hit us up on Twitter or email me at James@JustMoreFix or on Twitter @JustMoreFix, either way, and we will get you connected to whoever. And
set up a little mini dating profile for each of us.
a little podcast Tinder
I'm
app
Lacey,
kind of a thing.
30-year-old female.
Right.
I like horror stories and dark things.
I like horror stories and long moonlit walks on the beach that end in murder.
And tentacles. Because you're on the beach.
True. Right on. So the cross-casting would be very cool. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Along with the other podcasts and getting out to more people, we would like to do some more interviews because that one with Kyle Chenier, was a lot of fun. And very cool to hear directly from him about design choices and how he's putting things together. And he was super inspirational because he's like, this is the first one I did. And look at how awesome it did. And, it's fun to have a excited, rah, go get him kind of a talk from someone. It's a lot of fun. And he was very passionate and genuine about it. It wasn't like it was, forced or cliche or anything, he was like legit excited and, and good for him because Blood in the Chocolate was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So. And
of course our interview with the Lamentations gentleman was a good time as well.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Well, it's fun to hear, it's cool to sit down with people that design some of the stuff that you love and just hear why and hear their thoughts and do whatever and kind of bounce ideas off of each other and, a lot of fun. So, and in addition to that, getting out and doing some remote recording. I've got some things set up potentially in Terre Haute that we're going to do some recording. So that is all going to come at the beginning.
There's a new gaming store coming to our area.
Yes, so we're excited about that. Hopefully it will be as awesome as the one as we went to down by Fort Lauderdale because that place was epic. So
it was best gaming store.
Do you want to do the last one or do you want me to?
I don't know. It doesn't really matter. So the other thing that we've talked about doing, kind of along the lines that I don't know where I was going with that. Anyway, the other goal that we have is to do a couple more actual plays. So we did the Blood in the Chocolate one, which was wicked fun, and then we did the Mashed one. Did we actually release that?
No, we did not. I need to finish editing it and send it to Kurt to make sure to get his seal approval.
Right. So anyways, it was fun to play, and I'm sure it will be cool if you all get to listen to it. And if not, well, and we did record the Worms one, which you're kind of editing now too. I don't know if that one will be released either, because that's more just like your own thing.
Right. We'll see.
Point being, we'd like to do another actual play to record that you guys actually get to listen to.
True story. Right on. So yeah, look forward to that. That should be fun. We've got the equipment to do it. May as well make use of it and have some fun and do it. I forgot to mention quite a ways back, but I would like to do some online gaming and dabble in it and try and see how that goes.
Oh, yeah. I meant to mention that when you were talking about the gaming group and gaming more consistently.
Right.
Online games. I'd like to play in somebody else's first and see kind of how they do things.
Yeah,
and
that's my intention too. So if you
feel it out.
run games online and you're interested in having another idiot player around your table screen, if that's a thing.
Table screen.
I just invented that word. It's mine. Copyrighted. Anyway, if you're interested in having us around your table screen, I guess drop us a line and let us know. Anything else for 2018?
I can't think of anything offhand. I think that's it.
Me either.
Google does it for me. Hashtag squad goals.
Stop it. Stop it. I think that'll do it for us. Do you have anything else? I think that pretty much closes it off. That's about everything.
I've said too much already.
A lot of goals. I agree. This went a lot longer than I expected it to, but
we have a lot of goals.
True
Very
story.
goal-oriented people.
So, of all the games that we mentioned, look for those to come to you guys as reviews in the next year. Once we get a firm grasp on the systems and how they work and what we like and don't like about them. Quick Gonna Geek promo on In Defense of episode 43, the Geek Glad Game 2017. Happy holidays, joined by Nicole Mazza of the Terminus podcast. We run down all the gifts the geek and fandom communities have been given this year. Check out In Defense of on the Gonna Geek Network. Sorry we missed last week, but life happens and family first and whatnot. So I'm going to stop rambling. So you guys can, thanks for hanging out with us. And as always, you can support us by following us online at Just More Fix on Twitter, or support us by giving us a rating and a review on iTunes or Google Play, and soon to come on Slacker.
And check us out on Patreon.
Not Slacker. What's it called?
Stitcher.
No. Spotify. That's the
I don't
one.
know.
On Spotify. I'm working on getting us put up on there. And the best way you can support us is by sharing us with someone you don't know. You can also follow us. Or
Someone you don't know. I love this idea.
You can also support. The best way to support us is by sharing us with someone who doesn't game, that might be interested in us, that doesn't know about us, all that good stuff. So, as always, we will see you guys next week. Thanks for listening. This has been another episode of Just One More Fix. Music has been provided by Kevin MacLeod. You can find him at incompetech.com. You can find us at justonemorefix.com and follow us on Twitter at JustOneMoreFix.